can see quite a bit of cloud over the city at the moment. There's not a lot on the radar, but since we spoke yesterday, it probably doesn't look a great difference, the actual Brisbane River, but it was about 4.1 metres yesterday when we spoke. It's 4.5 metres now. Probably the water level's a little bit higher on this side of the bridge as it rushes down the Brisbane River. You can see it consuming a few of the buildings there. And also yesterday we had an excavator building a levee. Unfortunately, that has failed. It's pushed right through even the famous Story Bridge Hotel being consumed by water. Look, we can blame the rain for the floods, but probably for the Brisbane River itself, probably only about 10% of that. It is the Ivanhoe Dam due to the release of water. Now, the good thing, though, is we didn't reach that 5.5 metre peak due to our experts. Now, 4.5 metres is the peak, but it looks like staying that way for at least 24 hours. And I'll tell you why. It's because of our tidal inflow. Now, we have a high tide at around just after 4 o'clock this afternoon, and we have another slightly larger high tide which is due in just before 5 o'clock tomorrow morning. Now, this is why we're going to see these high levels for the next 24 hours or so, and this is providing we don't receive any more rainfall at all. And I really think we're not going to see a lot more rain over the next few days. In fact, I do have a couple of weather maps that I'd like to show you, and it's not just Queensland that's receiving most of the rain. It looks like we'll see some more flash flooding today for northeastern Victoria, and record rainfall also falling around Tasmania. But the good news, it's easing back over southeast Queensland. Over the next 24 hours, it looks like more rain for our southeastern corner of the country. So bad news for the far southern states. We will get relief over the next 7 days, but those floodwaters are certainly going to stick around. That's the outlook for Brisbane. Look, we can still see showery icons, but Wendy, let me tell you, this is probably the best forecast we've seen in around 3 months.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the Ivanhoe Dam, Gary, am I right in saying it's at 187% capacity?
Yeah, there's been quite a bit of confusion. I've had a lot of questions. Now, when we talk 100% capacity, that's actually for our water supply or our drinking water. Now, I'm told it can go between 200 and 225%, but that extra 125% is for flood mitigation. So we had a little bit further to go, but if it actually reached that level, flooding would have been a lot worse. Now, we're blaming about 90% of the flood for the Brisbane River due to the Ivanhoe, but it's controlled releases. If we did not have the Ivanhoe Dam, I've been informed that we could have seen another 8-metre flood, which was back in around 1893, which would have been devastating. Just there on that platform that you can see, it was only a few months ago that I was presenting the weather there. The Ivanhoe Dam had 3 gates open, and it was truly spectacular. This is full force, all 5 floodgates open, releasing water, and will continue to do that for weeks to come.
It really is an outstanding effort by the experts. I mean, you see a lot of people on the front line, we've seen them on our screens, but it is these experts that have worked to control the Ivanhoe Dam that have really saved Brisbane from an even worse disaster.
Well, it would be an extremely massive job just to, calculating every few minutes the amount of water, not just what's the runoff into the dams, because we've got the rain that was still falling and it was constant over such a large area. So a tough job, but we always have to be on the conservative side. We're forecasting that 5.5 metres, but thankfully only reaching 4.5. But just reiterating that will stick around for at least 24 hours.
Gary, we talked about a cyclone yesterday. Just give us a bit of an update on that in a bit more detail.
Well, I'm just getting some new charts and graphics done up right now. Now, looking a little further ahead, latest from yesterday on our computer models indicating a tropical cyclone forming in the Coral Sea. We've actually got one out there now, but it's towards sort of Fiji. It's so far away it won't affect the mainland. But what it tells me is cyclones need water temperature of 27 degrees and above to form. The ocean currents are certainly warm enough. We've got all the ingredients there. It is that time of the year, and it's indicating just before Australia Day we will see the development of a cyclone. You can see this is the day before Australia Day. It's intensifying, but then on Australia Day it looks like it will move away. But as we move on to the 27th, it's moving closer towards the coast. These lines close together indicate the pressure difference, the strength of the wind, which a gale force force here. And then on the 28th, which hopefully does not occur, it's moving towards the coast. It looks like it's weakening a little, and that could bring some very heavy rainfall. So while we're expecting the floodwaters to recede over the coming days, it's now we're looking forward to the forecast. We really don't want that to occur.
We don't at all. All right, Gary, thank you very much for the update. Appreciate it. OK, don't forget, if you would like to help out, you can donate, of course, to the Flood Relief Fund. The number there on your screen, 1800 219 028. Of course, there is also that website, and people really do need money to help them get back on their feet.
Cam, touring around there on a boat, you know it so well as well. It's surreal.
It is, Carl. This is a lovely area, and it's quite a long way, really, in direct terms, from the Brisbane River. If you were moving up from Melbourne, as a lot of people do, or from Sydney, you think that you'll get with the strength and join those Queenslanders, you could quite easily settle in Rosalie. You'd think it's a beautiful village with lots of trees and gardens and a very, very friendly community spirit, lots of boutique shops here. It's a pretty place. And you could be on halfway up a hill in Rosalie and never think about flooding. Well, if that was the situation you were in a week ago, today, your house would be nearly submerged. They talk about flood memory in these places, and 1974 has been the marker up till now, and I guess will remain so. But this is a significant disaster. This is, for many people, their first experience of a flood. And let me tell you, it's the smell, and it's the stains, and it's the stuff that you never thought you'd ever have to replace. It's just getting rid of sodden furniture and machinery. So much of that is gone, so much of it not covered by insurance. And it's a really heartbreaking thing to go back into a house that you've loved and you've laughed in, and it stinks. It is like a kennel, and it reduces people to tears. It's an awful, awful thing to do, and thousands of people in this area are going to have to do that sooner or later.
Cam, a couple of years ago, or many years ago now, I looked at a house on Beck Street, and it was a little bit too much out of my price range. Let me tell you, some stunning houses there. We're also looking just a little bit closer into town at Milton. You did a tour of there, going through the Forex factory. In fact, the guardhouse as you go in, completely submerged by water.
Yes, we heard Darren Curtis make reference from the chopper that he could see the roof of the guardhouse there. No one there to stop us today. We actually cruised over the top of the very tall gate that they have there to keep anyone interested in the beer out of their facility. And a number of the site managers came down and said that it was okay for us to have a quick look around. For a beer fan, it was heartbreaking. Pallets after pallet after pallet of ruined beer just sitting there. I guess the beer's salvageable, but the cartons that they're in will not be. And he was at great pains to point out the actual brew house there, which has survived going underwater by about that much margin, I reckon. They managed to just keep the water at bay for the brew house, so the place will be able to function reasonably normally. And they assured us there's a big supply of beer offshore, as they're now calling it, because the Castlemaine Brewery is a bit of an island at the moment, so they do have a warehouse somewhere else, and there's apparently a reasonable store of Forex there for all of those Queenslanders who are going to need a little bit of thirst quenching as they start this big clean-up.
Thank God for small mercies, brother. It is awful to see that Forex gold, which I think is a fine drop submerged in water. Good on you, mate. We'll come back to you soon. Thanks so much for your reporting this morning and the expertise around those areas.
Many people here say we don't want to go back. We don't want to go back into that town because any time it rains, we'll be jumping on our roof or running up that hill, which is tragic. But you can understand the mental anguish of these people when they've gone through something like this. Yeah, so true. Now, I understand Deputy Opposition Leader Julie Bishop is visiting the town. What she had to say? I haven't seen the Deputy Leader, but I have seen the Deputy Premier of Queensland, Paul Lucas, and he arrived probably just half an hour ago, spent some time with locals who are here. There is probably a handful, maybe 20 or 30 locals who are on the hill, and they never left, and they haven't really needed to besides the power, but he was dumbfounded. He said he's never seen anything like it, and that this town will need a lot of help to get back on its feet. And I should make mention that a little earlier today we were given some home video footage of this wall of water that has come into Grantham, and it is some harrowing footage. It is terrible, and there are people running across the bridge as the water's sweeping them off it. There are people sitting on the tops of cars. I mean, it's at the moment, it looks like a war zone, but in those pictures it just looks so much worse. So
are you saying it really was like a situation that we saw in Toowoomba?
Exactly the same. The water that is rushing down the hill, it is just it's churning like a rough sea, and it's taking things with it at a breakneck speed, which is just a scary element to it all. And things, seeing, I hate to say, and it's obviously something we won't show tonight, but seeing people in the water, which is just and the gentleman who showed us the tape said, look, after you guys are finished with it, I want to burn it. I can't watch it. And he's right. It is some extremely harrowing footage, and the things that happen in the time of Monday afternoon, in the early afternoon in Grantham, are just stuff of nightmares.
Yeah, there's no really no other way to put it, particularly with the real fears that up to 30 people are dead, as you said there. Cameron, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for the update from Grantham.
Thank you, Wendy.